Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating clinical mystery that sits right at the intersection of human biology and artificial intelligence. We're going to explore how the subtle, almost imperceptible nuances in how we speak might actually hold the secret to detecting one of the world's most complex neurological conditions, long before any of the traditional symptoms ever appear.
To really understand why this is so absolutely crucial, we have to look at the global stakes. Right now, Parkinson's disease affects over 10 million people worldwide. It's literally the second most prevalent neurodegenerative disorder on the planet. But here's the really interesting piece of the puzzle. Speech impairment can actually show up early. Sometimes it appears years before the prominent motor symptoms, like the tremors or stiffness that we normally associate with the disease.
So, this brings us to a massive, deeply provocative question. What if your voice revealed a disease years before your first tremor? Just imagine the power of catching Parkinson's at its absolute earliest stages, simply by speaking into a microphone. That's the ultimate promise of speech-based AI diagnostics, a truly scalable, non-invasive, and cost-effective approach to healthcare.
Okay, let's look at our roadmap. Today, we're going to cover the invisible early signs, the standardization problem, building the first benchmark, testing the AI models, and finally, why this all matters right now.
Section 1. The invisible early signs.
Here's the clinical reality. For an experienced neurologist, distinguishing advanced Parkinson's from a completely healthy patient, that's generally not a challenge. The real holy grail is reliably detecting early-stage Parkinson's. To tackle this, we're diving into a breakthrough paper titled A Benchmark for Early-Stage Parkinson's Disease Detection from Speech. It was authored by Terry Yi Zhong, Christian Tejedor Garcia, Kiet P. Trung, Jana Maas, Louis Ten Bosch, and Bastian R. Bloom. And what's really incredible here is the collaboration. They brought together language experts from the Center for Language Studies at Radboud University and movement disorder specialists from the Radboud University Medical Center, basically joining forces across disciplines to solve a massive problem.
Moving on to Section 2, the standardization problem.
Now, you might be wondering, if speech analysis is so promising, why haven't scientists solved this early detection puzzle yet? Well, honestly, it's been like a race with absolutely no finish line. The old way of doing things involves studies casually using the word early without actually categorizing patients by their disease stage. Data was all over the place. One data set would be almost entirely male, another focused on just one stage of the disease, different languages, different tasks, completely incomparable protocols. But the authors of our source paper fixed this. They introduced a new benchmark, a transparent, controlled, and replicable protocol that finally allows us to fairly compare different AI methods.
So the real game changer is how they actually defined early. They brought strict order to all that chaos by establishing a rigorous definition for early-stage Parkinson's, or early PD. To be included in this benchmark, a patient has to meet two strict criteria. First, a Hone and Yar stage of 2 or less, which measures symptom severity. And second, a time after diagnosis of 5 years or less. This guarantees the data represents real-world early-stage clinical patients, and not just unusually mild cases.
Section 3, building the first benchmark. Okay, so how did they actually build this testing environment? It's pretty brilliant in its rigor. Step 1, they meticulously filtered 2 openly accessible datasets, PC-GITA and NeuroVoz, using those strict early PD criteria we just talked about. Step 2, they created a private track using a dataset called Perspective Base. This lets researchers test how models handle much more diverse, private clinical data. And Step 3, they ran nested cross-validation with fixed 5-fold speaker-independent splits. I know that sounds super technical, but it basically just means the AI is tested on speakers it has absolutely never heard before. That guarantees a totally fair and realistic evaluation.
So, what exactly are these models listening to? Well, within this benchmark, they tested the AI on 3 distinct speech tasks. First is the sustained vowel, which is simply holding the ah sound. Second is the didokinetic or DDK task, which involves rapidly repeating the sounds pa, ta, ka. This one really stresses the motor control of your articulators. And third, sentence reading, to capture continuous, naturally flowing speech patterns. It turns out these incredibly simple acoustic tasks contain hidden neurological clues about a person's motor function.
Section 4. Testing the AI models.
The researchers put 3 complementary, state-of-the-art AI paradigms to the test. Let me translate the jargon real quick. We have BDHPD, which uses self-supervised learning to deeply understand speech patterns.
Then there's Inception PD, which takes a wild approach by literally turning audio spectrograms into images and using a vision-based model to look at the sound. And finally, we have RECA PD. This is an explainable AI or XAI method designed not just to spit out a prediction, but to actually offer explanations for why it made its decisions.
And finally, Section 5. Why this matters now.
When we look at the results, what jumps out right away is the sheer dominance of that explainable AI model across the board. We're looking at the AUC metric here, which essentially measures how well the model tells things apart. Look at RECA PD. It achieved an impressive 0.80 AUC on that rapid-fire DDK task and a 0.77 on the sentence task. It straight up outperformed both the vision and the self-supervised models in this single-task environment.
But here's a massive takeaway, beyond just which model won. The benchmark proved an absolutely critical concept for the future of AI training. They found that expanding speaker diversity is the ultimate key to boosting accuracy. When the models were fed data from non-early Parkinson's patients or augmented with those external private cohorts, their performance in detecting the early-stage disease consistently improved. Basically, more diverse voices equal a significantly smarter diagnostic tool.
The data also threw us a really fascinating curveball regarding gender. The paper notes a consistent trend toward higher performance for female speakers across all models and tasks. This completely flips previous assumptions on their head, because older studies often reported higher accuracy from male speakers. It just highlights exactly why we need rigorous fairness and comprehensive datasets when building these diagnostics. We have to make sure the AI is learning the full spectrum of acoustic patterns for everyone.
And this brings up a really vital point. In computer science, there's often this fear that if you make an AI explain its work, it loses predictive power. But as the researchers state, the strong performance of RECA PD proves that an explainable AI design does not have to compromise performance. That is absolutely crucial because doctors need to trust the system. They need to know exactly why the AI is diagnosing Parkinson's before they make clinical decisions.
Oh, and the researchers also left us with a highly practical tip for real-world deployment. They found that if you aggregate multiple recordings from the same person, say having them read 10 sentences instead of just one, you significantly improve the AI's robustness. It effectively smooths out that natural day-to-day variability in a single person's voice, which makes a test far more reliable for an app or a clinician to actually use.
So, bringing it all together, what is the ultimate application of this research? By establishing this benchmark, these scientists have laid the concrete foundation for diagnostic tools that are scalable, totally non-invasive, and incredibly cost-effective. We're literally talking about the ability to screen large populations for early-stage Parkinson's disease using nothing more than a microphone. This paves the way for life-changing early interventions, way before those major motor symptoms ever take hold.
This whole study forces us to completely rethink how we interact with the devices around us and how we monitor our own biology. So I'll leave you with one final provocative thought. If the subtle acoustics of your voice hold the key to predicting your future health, will your smartphone soon become your very first neurologist? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating breakthrough with me today. Keep your ears open and stay curious.